Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jams and Tea podcast, where we spin the jams and spill the tea. And today we're coming at you with a brand new Now episode, where occasionally we gather together to talk about a special topic in a given week. And this week, we're going to talk about something that we were all kind of amused to find out we hadn't already talked about this because it's such an obvious, ripe for discussion musical topic, and that is the topic of the one-hit wonder and specifically our favorite one-hit wonders. What are they? Why are they? How are they?
Yes, we have talked about in the past we did an episode on guilty pleasure songs that we like that are like popular, more or less popular songs that we like that don't particularly have, aren't particularly cool, fun, tasteful picks to have, which is the only reason why in my list today you will not be hearing of Hoobastank's The Reason, because I've already spilled my load on that amazing song. But we
Yeah,
have
why would you phrase?
I don't know. I don't know. I just decided to do that, I guess. But we
Not
have.
a perfect.
See, now you're making it worse.
I'm so sorry. So we've each prepared five songs, five of our favorite one-hit wonders for a total of 15. We've got some one-hit wonders that are quite well known in terms of songs that will come to mind when you ask a given person to say, what are your favorite one-hit wonders? But we also have quite a few picks on our list, at least to me anyway, it seems that quite a few picks on our list are a little bit more obscure, in as much as a one-hit wonder, by definition, a very successful song can be obscure. Maybe more like forgotten nowadays, but certainly songs that were really, really big at a particular point in time, and some of which have a lot of nostalgia for us as well. So, we don't need any more context than that. One hit wonders, everyone knows what they are. We are kind of, in terms of the framework we're working from, it's very much a US Billboard Hot 100 sort of one hit wonder. And the idea is
Mhm.
that the band didn't have any kind of subsequent top 40 charting songs, or ideally any subsequent charting songs at all. But, the rules are a little bit fluid. If it feels like a one hit wonder, it counts basically, but there is some logic to kind of back that up. Without further ado, though, let's kick off. We've got 15 songs to get through. So, Jake, why don't you lead us off with your first pick for favorite one-hit wonder songs?
Well, when putting together my list of favorite one-hit wonders, my immediate first notice was that all of my tippy top picks for my favorites were songs that were a bit emotionally heavy. And so I kind of wanted to balance things out the best I could with all five of my picks. So naturally, I'm kicking off this list with a song about jerking off. Because my first song on here is Jerk It Out by the band Caesars. And one of the reasons I picked this is because this is one of the best examples of a band that so perfectly and cleanly slots into what you expect when you hear one hit wonder band in your mind. Because this is a band that existed for a very specific window in time, like a perfect decade long span from 1998 to 2008, where nothing they made was super popular or super notable, and nobody really remembers any of it. They changed their name three times, which may have been why they didn't catch on. They were the 12 Caesars, then Caesar's Palace when they did this song, and then changed their name finally to Caesars. But on their
The genre name
2002 album,
on Apple Music for this album is Europe.
which is funny because it's not a particularly European sounding one hit wonder. And trust me, there is a way that a one hit wonder can sound European. There are many ways in which a one hit wonder can sound European, but this is not one of them. This is very strictly a power pop kind of indie rock song that's very, very simple. And I think that it's best sort of communicated the appeal of the song in just its opening few seconds, where you're hit immediately with this really sticky, kind of abrasive keyboard hook. And it's just like, oh, whoa, many things do not sound like this. What's going on here? And then you're hit with a very memorably produced, very short, very fun sort of power pop song that is about, well, the song is called Jerk It Out. And look, This is far from the only one-hit wonder that is secretly about masturbation. In fact, there is an alarming number of them that fit under this category. Like when looking at them, if you go on Wikipedia and look at like the most notable hits, I'm pretty sure you could, single out a solid 30%. But thing is that I think few of them just capture the fun and frivolousness of the subject material as well as something like Jerk It Out does. It's just it's so silly in the way that something like I think when Green Day started leaning into the power pop sensibilities of their sound, but like there's almost a kind of Strokesian edge to this song that feels a little bit ahead of its time. But you can easily see why something that like this caught people's ear because it's a really well designed pop song, but it's also like nothing about it really retains much like lasting timeless appeal or anything. So again, it's easy to see why it was a one-hit wonder, but why people kind of subsequently completely forgot it was a one-hit wonder, just because this is a song that I feel like you probably heard used in maybe a commercial or like an obscure movie or something that like maybe you've heard once or twice. You'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that, but it embodies all of the things about a one-hit wonder that I feel like are novel and fun and interesting and bright and yeah, semi-disposable, but still fun and novel for what they are, I guess.
To me, this song sounds like if Smash Mouth were fronted by Liam Gallagher. I kind of hate it a lot. But
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, it's
uh,
kind of an obnoxious song. Like
yeah,
I totally get why.
but look, it's one of those things where you know your mileage with novelty songs, and I think this is a pretty novelty song, is going to
Oh,
vary in as
for
much as
sure.
you have a kind of level of nostalgia for it. And like this, to me, this song just reminds me, yeah, like annoying commercials, and I just never had a moment with it. But I like that we're kicking off with something so irreverent because we are going to build to some truly kind of profoundly perfect songs.
Yep.
So it's nice to
Uh-huh.
start off with something that's a little bit goofy. I just there's definitely a couple of songs on each of your lists where I went and listened to every song on our list this morning. I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling some of these. So that was an interesting position to be in.
Perfect.
There's really just two for me that I'm like, nah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see as we
Well,
go.
I feel that's appropriate just because one hit wonders to me are some of the most specific kinds of songs for so many reasons that like, yeah, this song, it very much embodies like what it is to be a rock song in like the Oasis Rolling Stones sense of the word, and that it's kind of shaggy and unkempt and in the wrong, like I could totally see this being like maybe my most divisive pick just because it's the most specific in appeal, but I do really love it. It's just I have to be in a specific kind of mood to listen to it, I guess. It's maybe the most horse blinders I get for one of my picks.
Yeah. In spirit, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Blur's song too. I mean, I think it's just got a real Britpop
Mhm.
sound. The vocalist has a real Britpop sound
Yeah.
to his voice. And I think of
I
like,
thought of the band Cake a lot.
oh, yeah, I can see that too. It's just, yeah, some of the songs as well on these lists are like so like painfully like late 90s that
Oh yeah.
that it's really hard to separate them from that specific point in time or any of the other points in time that the other songs are linked to. But there is a few specific late 90s songs on here that really stick
Are
out
these
for that
songs
reason.
good or were we all just born at the turn of the century?
Mm. Who's to say? Morgan, what is your first pick today?
Uh, first pick is a mid to late 90s hood classic,
Hell yeah,
Deep
brother.
Blue Something's Breakfast at Tiffany's, which I loved before. I'm fairly certain I was the one who introduced this song to the friend group, but there's a group of people that I've been friends with since senior year of high school. Certain members of this group I've been friends with since fourth grade, but uh, that for whatever reason, this song just became ridiculously enduring for us. It is something that will get thrown on invariably when we were all hanging out. And I know every single word of it, note for note, beat for beat, and I love it dearly. I have no idea if it's a good song.
That's exactly why I'm so glad that you picked this song, is because I have heard just as many people claim that they absolutely loathe this song and that it's one of the worst things they've ever heard, and just as many people say it's one of the best one-hit wonders ever, and I have always firmly thought that it is one of the best one-hit wonders ever purely because of it's like the one of the most fundamentally silly, fluffiest songs ever. It's funny, Riley, that you brought up the Smash Mouth comparison. I always thought like my byline for this song is, what if Smash Mouth made a song that was on Pet Sounds? That's what this song is.
Interesting history with this song. Like history is the wrong word because
Oh.
it implies there's stories. I just mean like an interesting like arc, I guess. I used to be one of those people who thought this is a really fucking annoying song that I don't like. And I've kind of come around on it a little bit, but not fully. I'm still kind of a little bit iffy on it, but I've come around on it enough to be like, okay, this is a good song. But it's interesting because I think it's a good song for like a really unusual reason, which is just that it's like pointedly and purposefully underwritten in a way that's like really strange because it's essentially it's a breakup song. It's a really glib breakup song, and it's like specifically like it's really sarcastic. It's just basically, you know, that whole the whole chorus that everyone remembers is just really funny because it's such a like it doesn't come together very cleanly, and it's kind of a kiss off in a really sort of like, wait, what way, the way that it flows, and then the way that it ends with that kind of, you know, just really sardonic, well, it's the one thing we've got uh
It is
combined.
an ode to the situationship before that was a really like a
God.
thing that had a term in popular
Yep.
culture.
I like as well that the lyrics are kind of inspired by Roman Holiday, but they chose to call the song Breakfast at Tiffany's because that was a more like a well-known film title. That's just the kind of like,
Even though it doesn't work at all, because who the fuck has ever bonded with anyone over breakfast at Tiffany's?
well, this is here's the thing, right? Is that Breakfast at Tiffany's is obviously the more like culturally well-known film, but it's funny because uh it's a terrible movie that's aged really poorly. And Roman Holiday is a fucking masterpiece. Like it's a classic. Like you're writing a song about how you bonded with someone over Roman Holiday, which is an incredibly romantic film. And like a very easy like and it would make so much sense, but you're changing that, and in a way I don't know if this was intentional at all, but in a way changing the title from Roman Holiday to Breakfast at Tiffany's, a much shallower movie that, you know, is most well remembered for an incredibly racist Mickey Rooney performance. Like changing it to that is like, and having that be the film that you're kind of bonding over in this heavily sarcastic chorus kind of makes it even better, right? Because it's like it shows
Yeah.
the shallowness of this one thing that you share is like just as shallow as the relationship. Um,
And like you can kind of see the conversation being like, well, hey, at least we both love breakfast at Tiffany's, you know? And the woman is like, we both love Roman Holiday. Breakfast at Tiffany's sucks.
it's kind of more like it's more
Yeah.
like I was thinking more like the other way. Like it's like she loves Breakfast at Tiffany's, and he's like he's just tried to hit, so he's just been like, yeah, fucking
Well, yeah, that
great
too.
movie. Um, yeah, but
That's
anyway,
fantastic.
uh, yeah, it's a solid song. It's obviously a really enduring one. But it is funny because like I think it's funny to me because I think the things that make it work are kind of aspects of the song that are like just weirdly not fully there, or like a little bit unfinished, a little bit kind of
I have
cliffhanger.
I have a similar but much less of a fondness for Absolutely Story of a Girl, which I think is mostly a song I like because it's really funny in
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
how stupid it is.
yeah.
This is the story
But
of a girl.
See, I like that song a lot more than Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I think maybe it's just maybe it's that the proximity of that song to like the more kind of pop punkier stuff that I enjoy from that time, even though it's still very firmly not that. Uh, Whereas this is kind of like just got a little, it's just a little bit more like, I don't know, mum rock. I don't know. It's just not quite for me, but it definitely is an enduring song, and I've heard it a million fucking times, so it totally fits the bill. Okay, my first song today. This is a little bit of a slight outlier in the sense that this song was a hit. It didn't make it to like the top 10 in the US or anything, but it charted pretty highly. And more to the point, I distinctly remember it from my childhood. It was a really big song, and I was obsessed with it. The song came out when I was like 12, and so and it was just like it became my whole personality for a very particular point in time, and that's the Veronicas Untouched. I want to lead off with this. I'm only putting it at 5 because the other songs on my list were kind of bigger hits than this one, but this is a fucking epochal song. The string part of this song, the chorus of the song, the urgency of it as well, just giving this kind of gothy quality to what is otherwise, like a very tried and true sort of girl punk sort of song that's very in vogue with the kind of music of like artists like Avril Lavigne, etc. from the 2000s. But like instead of the heavily distorted post-punk guitars, it's like strings for whatever reason, like and it's capturing a real sort of 80s gothic vibe. The string part in this song reminds me a lot of the very famous string part in Vanessa Carlton's A Thousand Miles as well, which was another contender from my list. So like consider this position to be kind of both of those songs in a way. But Untouched is just one I especially wanted to highlight as well because I feel like it might be for a bit more forgotten now. Maybe people who didn't experience it at the time maybe didn't remember it as well. But that song was like world defining for me when I was 12 years old. That song just completely blew my shit up. So that's my first pick, Veronica's Untouched.
The sense of melodrama in this song is just like positively unmatched. Like it's those strings that you mentioned that really add a kind of like, I don't want to say a camp just because that doesn't immediately read when you listen to the song, but it does give it a kind of gravity that I do feel like is not missing from a lot of songs nowadays, just because I do feel like melodrama has made a big return, but I almost feel like that's a lot of like just sort of goes to show you how ahead of its time a song like this is, because it sounds like it was made further along than I feel like it actually was, but it's the performance style that is what keeps it anchored to its moment in time.
Yeah, and it's funny as well because like the verses in this song are like kind of undercooked. It's sort of like breathy repetition, like caught in a moment, can't get the words out. And then the chorus hits and it's like 15 out of 10 chorus. It's just like a
Uh-huh.
crazy good chorus. So that's one of the things that's so powerful about the song is it really just kind of blindsides you with those, blindsides you first with the strings, but then it blindsides you with an absolutely amazing chorus. So yeah, I'm fully in the bag for the song.
This was the only one on the list that I didn't recognize the name or the artist of, and actually had not heard at some point or another. Um, amazing song.
Yeah,
Like
it's just baller as
it's
hell.
it's just like I feel like it's so high energy and so opulent in the production that I feel like I look like one of those people that when you stick a vacuum hose in front of their face, I'm just like
I think maybe
Can we
it was a bit bigger in New Zealand, I think maybe than it was in the US, but it definitely charted high enough to count for this video, so I'm picking it. All right, Jake, what's your second pick?
My second pick here is going to be a song that is also a little bit more, I guess, on the disposable end, just to get the entire breadth of what the one hit wonder is, I suppose. But it's a bit more musically substantial and comes from a truly fascinating source. And also, like Morgan's first pick, kind of goes to show you the mimetic quality that one hit wonders can contain, and like specifically that they have just a kind of magic that can live with a certain amount of comedic potential with your friends, because my pick is the crazy world of Arthur Brown's Fire.
Fire!
And
Who
and if
destroy
you've
all
been
you've
tuning
done.
Fire,
I've had my top down in this
just
lay-by.
this, if you've been paying attention, you probably know that Morgan and I joke about this song more than any other song in existence. We have referenced this song because of that moment in Hot Fuzz so many fucking times. You had to have heard at least one time over the years where we've done this. But the thing is that when I remembered that that was indeed a song once and was like, hey, what does the album that this come from? Like, what is it like? Like, is the artist behind this even remotely notable? So I went out of my way and tracked down the self-titled Crazy World of Arthur Brown album from 1968, listened to it, and was shockingly into it. I was like, damn, this is just a really cool late 60s psych rock album. Like, if you are a fan of like Frank Zappa or even like I guess to a lesser extent, people like Captain Beefheart, but like the true musical eccentrics of the late 60s and early 70s, the weirder, more out there King Crimson shit, Jimi Hendrix, like this kind of scene, this world, the LSD drenched sort of sect of rock music. And the reason that Fire is a great song is purely because it is a purely structurally linear song and that it just kind of swells and grows and grows. There's no fucking like fancy structures going on here. There's no like, late 60s prog shit going on. Like, no. This is Fire in the Jimi Hendrix, which is funny considering the entire reason that this was a hit to begin with is because of one Mr. Jimi Hendrix, who recommended that local radio stations play The Crazy World of Arthur Brown because they played together and Jimi Hendrix was a huge fan of him. So that's how this song became this huge hit in the UK. In fact, I think it was like it like got to some like absurd chart position for a song that's this insane and weird. It could only happen in the late 60s, but this is just a song that is about an all-consuming fire that will destroy everything around you. But like there's a side to it with which it's written that's a little bit less outright right like chaotic and destructive and is a bit more like meditative and peaceful, like fire as in a more symbolic thing of like something that burns everything around you in like a Buddhist sense and that it frees you from your possessions and frees you from worldly things and all that shit. But that's not what the song's appeal is. The appeal is how big those horns are when it fucking explodes and it's the fire to destroy all you've done. And Arthur himself is just like this fantastic Tom Waitsian vocal presence who's shouting at the top of his lungs. It's just a big, fun, explosive song about a big, fun, explosive subject that sounds great, is kind of rough in that 60s psych way that you want something like this to be, and is just sort of a piece of musical history at this point, just because of how influential Arthur Brown actually ended up becoming. And dude has like a really long career, put out an album in fucking 2019. Nobody cares about it or particularly cared for it, but dude has stayed around, which I think is pretty remarkable of him. Like to be a musical eccentric, but not be met with the same level of commercial success as someone like Zappa is a pretty admirable pursuit and just kind of stands as a testament to his artistry.
My second pick, at the risk of being a little homogenous with the previous pick, but I am who I am, is One Headlight by the Wallflowers, which is just a song my parents had on all the time. Uh, I think this came out like the year they got married, but it has such a genuine like weight and serious. I don't know. It's hard to describe a song that sounds so like so many other songs that I also love. And like, why is this the one that stands out to me? Like, well, it's just something came together in the studio and it all just like it's it's like an image of a moment in time as a, you know, like a time capsule. I almost said time vessel. That doesn't make any sense. That's like a time
It's
machine.
like a it's like
Um,
a rival.
should have never smoked that shit. Now I'm in the time vessel. Um, but it's such a perfect time capsule of that period of popular music and sort of adult alternative rock music.
Mm.
Um, just an amazing chorus that you want to belt out every time it comes on.
I'd never heard this song before today. It's so emblematic of a particular period of like
Wow.
post-grunge 90s sort of adult alternative, as you say, where it's like a just a downbeat mood, but also with this kind of like with this singer who's like got a real kind of soul searching kind of like I have something inside and I need to get it out sort of performance. I watched the music video as well, which is one of the most hilariously like 90s music videos I've
Yeah.
ever seen. It's just like
Uh-huh.
the fucking camera focus shifts and the color effects and all the stuff that's in the video. It's like, oh, this is so 90s. But the most overriding thought I had listening to this was that I think, funnily enough, of all things, I was listening to the chorus of the song. I was like, what does this chorus remind me of? This chorus reminds me of another song, definitely one that came later. So a song that was inspired by this. It's just like a thing with the melody of the vocal melody on the chorus. And then it hit me that it's Taylor Swift's Mine has almost the same chorus melody as this song. Like
Oh.
if you listen to the chorus of this and you listen to the chorus of Taylor Swift's Mine, it's like they're almost the same melody. And I think that's such a cool point of inspiration that I
Oh.
really like. Um but it's funny as well because the song as it starts and in kind of its verses, it's kind of almost like a Radiohead Creep vibe of like kind of,
Mm-hmm.
sort of low key and kind of sort of droney almost and mopey, and then that chorus comes in and it really lifts it up. So I really like this song. I kind of wish I'd heard it before, but this was like a perfect excuse to discover it. It's very painfully 90s in so many different ways, but it just comes together really nicely. So yeah, I really like this song.
You did happen to read who the lead singer is, didn't you?
Oh my
uh
God.
I never looked it up.
I was going to say this just in case you didn't know.
I don't know who is the lead singer of the song.
Just go ahead and Google
Just
it and we'll get a live
give it a
reaction.
whirl, give it a wait.
Hang on. Okay. All right. I mean,
This
no,
is the
I
perfect reaction for like the Jerry Cantrell playing on Gore thing, but for one hit wonders that you semi kind of care
well,
about.
I see. Okay, so it's Bob Dylan's son, Jacob Dylan, right? But I didn't know, like,
Yes.
that's not a person I would recognize. I watched the music video. I thought this guy is like this guy's like, he's like chiseled to a hilarious degree. Like he,
And he's doing
Yes.
this whole like
but yeah, the vocal thing is the thing that makes sense that he's Dylan's son. Like he doesn't look anything like him, but he does have that voice now you say it.
Yep.
Um,
The song has this like rustic wanderlust to it that just perfectly makes me think of your vibe, Morgan. So I was just like, I just instantly knew you were going to pick this song. It felt right. It felt congruent in my brain. Like I like how I had figured that Riley would pick that LaRue song that he didn't actually end up picking because it's not technically counting for our criteria. But in the same way, I was just like that makes sense.
My second pick today is the most classic song that I've picked in the sense that it is the oldest song that I've picked and probably, yeah, probably the most well known, I would say. Although there's another song on my list that gives it stiff competition. That is Soft Cell's Tainted Love, an absolute 80s classic. Kind of hard to believe they never had another hit. I think that Say Hello, Wave Goodbye off of the same album was kind of big here, maybe. But no, Tainted Love, I checked the Billboard Hot 100. Tainted Love's the only song they have had that's ever charted. I think they're a fairly short-lived band as well, so that's not super surprising. But everyone knows this song. It's iconic. That synth part is iconic. That vocal is iconic. The hand claps are iconic. The pre-chorus is iconic. Every single thing about this song is iconic. There is some argument to be made that this is maybe the definitive synth pop song. Well, maybe that's Blue
Mhm.
Monday, but this came before so many of the other contenders on for that title anyway. So it's hard not to just loud it with flowers for how, inescapable it continues to be. Um, this is just a song that the subtextual kind of dripping sexuality of it is just such a huge part of its appeal to me. A lot of songs around this time, especially coming into kind of the synth wave of alty sort of 80s rock music and pop music, kind of the Depeche Mode of it all, kind of brought that sex
Hmm.
stuff to the forefront. But Soft Cell were ahead of the curve, and Tainted Love is just a song that has endured so strongly. I don't really have much to say about it. It's fucking Tainted Love.
Yeah, I
Rare
mean it's
example
just
of a one-hit
so
wonder that's a cover.
Yes, good point.
I wanted to avoid those, and this very well could have made my list if I didn't have that limitation. Because I didn't I like the cover of the Alien Ant Farm Smooth Criminal a lot, but it feels like it's still a Michael Jackson song.
Well,
It doesn't qualify.
Well, here's the thing,
Yeah.
right? Is that the Jackson song was big. Whereas with Soft Cell, with Tainted Love, the Soft Cell version was the only version that ever really made it
Yeah.
hugely
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
So I think that's just that's really the difference. Whereas with Smooth Criminal, it's like everyone knows that's a Michael Jackson cover and everyone remembers the Jackson version. Um, but we are having this conversation with you in Discord as well. Like, yeah, I'm an Alien Ant Farm Smooth Criminal truther. That cover has a particular tinge of nostalgia to me, just because I remember watching the video as a kid. Watching the dude jump up on the car and scream, and the kid doing the break dancing. Just amazing music video.
Yaddy, are you okay? Are you okay, Yaddy?
But anyway, not
I
the song
think
we're
if
talking
their
about. But
song
yeah,
there's a part of me that wishes that their song Movies had charted instead of the Smooth Criminal cover, because that probably would have made this list, because I really love that song. Um
Just like the
the
movie.
movies. Uh
Song has like three
anyway,
music videos.
yeah.
I have never
Anyway,
heard a second Alien Ant Farm song, I don't think, and I don't really ever know if I
You are not the
intend
only one.
to. Because to me it's just so perfect that they would exist for that one cover. Probably should though. They seem like they'd be my kind of silly band.
Tainted Love I think works on because of how sort of primal this version is. Like it
Mhm.
all circulates around the fucking of it all, which is just like so charged. I feel like it's just
Mhm.
made to make you feel like a freak,
Yeah.
like a little creep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gremlin.
Which
Shout out the album this is on, by the way, Nonstop Erotic Cabaret. Great record. The whole thing exudes
Amazing title.
the vibe of this song totally. All right, back around we go again. Jake, for your third pick.
All right, well, we're getting into more one-hit wonder staples here with some classic college rock, some good old late 90s post Britpop alternative rock. Because my pick here is really the song that kickstarted us talking about this in general, because my pick is Semisonic's song from their album Feeling Strangely Fine in 1998, their song Closing Time. And this is a classic song at this point. I feel very little incentive to debate the merit of something like Closing Time, just because it's kind of understood that this is a great song these days by most people. I know that there's always going to be a contingent of people that just don't get along with certain brands of one-hit wonders, even the, kind of the vaguely nostalgic kind of rustic appeal of a song like this. But to me, as somebody who, longtime lover of things like piano rock, talked about that like when we talked about our episode on Billy Joel and Ben Folds, for instance, that it's something that I hold close to my heart. So already you're orbiting me when you have this sound. But it's the subject material here that I can basically sell as being like the lyrics to this remind me of a Menzinger song, which is why I love it so much. There's so much like generality to the lyrics on this song, so much universality that it borders on being so elemental. It's almost a bit too simply written, but I don't know. To me, there's just a perfect tone here of just the sort of, the alienation you feel as you grow up and then ultimately are sort of forced from one stage of your life into the next, and you feel, mildly unprepared. Maybe you don't want to do it, but there is a kind of optimism to this song that, it's a very the only way out is through kind of thing of just like you need to go forward, you need to experience life. There's a whole lot ahead of you. Very, lots of platitudes in this song, but they ring is really earnest because of the vocal performance and just the kind of semi-austere but still kind of like properly muscular instrumentation that's going on here. It's also just like a perfectly structured and written song from both like a lyrical and just a construction point of view. Dan Wilson, main writer of Semisonic, has more than proved his mettle in his years since this album and this hit, seeing as he's become like a huge songwriter in the industry. You might know him as the guy behind several of Adele's most notable hits, if that gives you an idea as to what kind of a songwriting mind you're working with here. And if you are interested in listening to more from this band, the album that this is from is actually pretty fantastic, honestly, as well as their follow-up album, All About Chemistry, which follows in the trend of me talking about songs that are all about masturbation because every single song on that album is about jerking off. Every single one of them. But it's still a good song or a good album. Very worthwhile band. I highly recommend checking them out just because they are worthwhile for more than just this one song. One of the rare one-hit wonders that, their lasting appeal. You can see why they didn't stick around and weren't like huge, but definitely deserved more than they got, I think.
Closing Time is one of those songs like Breakfast at Tiffany's where it's like really what this is less a great song than just a great chorus. Like the song is great, but like it's really just like it's a great chorus that carries the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And it's the big thing that people remember. And I have a lot of affinity for those songs that are just like it's all about the chorus. The whole thing is about building to the chorus and then recovering from it. I think part of the thing of why Semisonic could never be big as well after this is that it kind of just from the title and from the theme as well is like it's kind of a song that feels like an ending more so than an arrival. So yeah, I love this song deeply and dearly, and it's so like this is one of those songs that has been a karaoke staple at all the drunken nights that I had when I was a student, parading down to the karaoke place. You always have Closing Time at some point.
After you graduate from college and have a job for a little while, this song will like threaten to bring you to the verge of tears occasionally, as it has me.
Yeah. Eternal. Morgan, what is your third pick today?
Another late 90s hood classic, but one of a very different ilk than the two previous mentioned. That would be Lit, My Own Worst Enemy, which another hysterical song. That's sort of a running theme in my picks of just like, or at least the one-hit wonders that I have a great affinity for of like, this is really catchy and also really funny and not always in a way that I think they were conscious of, but I mean, it's such a template for like so much of the pop punk that would follow it. Blink-182 were already an active band when this came out, but I think they heard this song and was like, we should do exactly that for the rest of our lives, but with better drums.
This song is to me what I guess all the small things is to people who fucking hate Blink-182 because I could not get into this song.
Boo!
And
Boo!
it's a total thing. Like this is a perfect example of like I just don't have that nostalgia for this particular song because I don't remember it from my childhood. There's just other songs that overshadowed it, I guess. If I did remember it from my childhood, I would almost certainly be on the same page as you. But I listened to this when I was like, this just feels like someone doing a parody of those other songs. Like the lyrics are, and here's the thing, right?
But it was the blueprint.
Right. And that's the thing that was missing from my experience with it is that context and that appreciation. But it is like, even for pop punk, this is a stupid fucking song. And that in itself is not bad. But it's like, I couldn't get into it. I'm sorry to say. It just made me feel like
I'm sorry that you're an elitist.
I mean, that's probably fair.
It's a song about being an absolute disaster. Just like an unabashed pile of shit. And it's sort of appealing that as the years have gone on, the song has remained the same. That part of this person feels like they probably grew out of it, became a person with a fully developed brain, but like the Polaroid of this song is always there, and the vocalizations at the end when they do the chorus,
It's
it
classic. Like
just
it's got all of
yes,
the cliches and the templates and the little bits. I cannot, in good conscience, without being a hypocrite, say that this is measurably worse than songs that it inspired that I love. I just don't have that affinity for this particular song. Maybe that'll change. Maybe it'll kind of grow on me. But yeah, the whole time I was listening to
like
this,
a fungus.
yeah, the whole time I was listening to this, all I could think of was just like, I fucking just this guy, this fucking guy. He would be the worst hang. He's just an absolute.
Yeah, he is
Yeah.
the weed dealer that sticks around like after you've received the
Just a
Like a
product
little too
fucking
long.
cat piss
and
smell.
it hits, yeah, and hits on your girlfriend, and it's like
Hmm.
Yeah.
we can't tell him to leave because he's our only plug. That
Yeah.
this is a song written from the perspective of that dude.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Weedus coated.
I want to say
Oh,
it's
fuck.
interesting how few. I mean, speaking of a truly terrible song,
Mm.
Teenage Dirtbag,
Fuck.
um,
A legitimate Riley 1 out of 10. I hate
it's
that song.
terrible.
I hate
The
that song. I
worst
hate it.
vocalist of all time,
I hate
maybe.
that song more because so many people I grew up with love it.
I'm sort of now feels like a good time to reflect on the fact that there are so few 80s one-hit wonders on my list. Really just one. And that was sort of inspired by the fact that going through and making this list, I had to cross out about, I want to say, 7 different candidates that I had on there because they were not, in fact, one-hit wonders. Like I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight by Cutting Crew absolutely would have been like
Oh.
top 2 or top 3 on this list for me, except they had another song that was in the top 10 from that album cycle. So
Hmm.
fuck
It
me, I
was
guess.
really hard to like, for me it was a thing of like just having too few picks to like
Yeah.
for the video. Like I had a really long list. I'm gutted that I had to leave out Nina's 99 lift balloons because that to
Yeah,
Yeah.
me
same.
is
That was
like
one I wanted to include too.
that to me feels like it should be here. But I've gone again. I kind of ended up. My logic was kind of just like I'm gonna stick with the ones that are a little bit more like personal to me and maybe a little bit less
Hmm.
obvious. And
Agreed.
that's the only reason it didn't make it. But yeah, the 80s were like MTV era. You know, every band could have a video on TV. You know, and so there was a big push for like
Yeah,
for
what I found out is that most of the genuine one-hit wonders from the 80s were terrible.
mm.
Like Video
Yeah,
Killed the Radio Star is a terrible song.
I have a lot of fondness for that song, but I get what you mean. Well, this is the thing about the MTV era. It's like you could have a hit off the back of a video, you know, and that could be a big part of what pushes the song itself up there. And so it's a new space where like it was easier for a new artist to kind of ascend through the ranks because it was just a new medium that had new factors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, my third pick is a classic. I was almost gonna put this at number one because to me it's like it's got such a timeless feel. I could see an argument for this as the greatest one-hit wonder of all time. But I ended up well, it's here. It's at the third spot on my list. It's right in the middle of my list. It's an incredible song, and it is the New Radicals. You get what you give. I mentioned the song in Discord the other day. This was definitely going to be on my list because I was surprised it wasn't on either of yours. And Morgan was like, I don't know
Hmm.
this song. And then went to listen to it and was like, oh, I know this song. And this is the thing, right? Everyone knows this song on some level, whether they know it or not. It is just kind of seeped into the backbone of Western consciousness. Everyone has an opinion on this song. Some people think it's cheesy. Some people think it's profound. Some people, like me, think it's both and kind of be one thing because of the other. Um, it's in it is one of those songs that you listen to and you're like, this. I would be happy if this was the last song I ever heard in my life, or if the world was burning and this was
'Cause
playing.
the ultimate end credits song.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, the only one of the few things that has tainted the song for me is that it plays during the end credits of the Adam Sandler movie Click, which when I was a kid was one of the only DVDs we owned. So I had to watch that movie a lot, and had to, and
That's a prison of some kind.
it is a prison of some kind. Also, that movie coincidentally was the first time I heard the Strokes, who's Someday is in that movie. Anyway,
Wow.
that all aside, New Radicals only you only get what you give is it's just one of those songs that you remember that chorus, right? You remember how, infernally hooky it is, how ridiculously kind of uplifting it is. And you maybe in your mind, it becomes a little bit more two-dimensional than what it really is, like the song, because that sentiment is all you really remember. But like there's a lot of darkness in this song. There's a lot of strange political and social commentary in this song as well. It actually had it got a lot of media attention because of this final verse where he talks about like how he's going to kick the asses of various like 90s celebrities. And he kind of put that in there because right before that he has lines about, big bankers buying out his lines. I don't know, I can't sound smart about shit because he has lines about like politics and the economy and shit and capitalism and stuff right before that. But he wanted to put these lines about like kicking Marilyn Manson's ass right after it because he wanted to see if people would pay attention to the social commentary in the song or whether they would just gravitate towards those lyrics. And of course they gravitated towards those lyrics. And there was like a lot of controversy because he said he was going to kick Courtney Love's ass with his tongue firmly in cheek. And nowadays, no one remembers this about the song because it's just the chorus that sticks in people's
Truly
minds.
the control verse of the 90s.
But it's an absolutely amazing song. My favorite moment in the song isn't even either of those things. It's this moment towards the end where he just screams, "What's real can never die," and it feels like the most profound shit I've ever heard in my life. That's the thing is it's
That's the real fucking Babe Ruth in the Sandlot being like, "Legends never die, kid." I'm like,
and that's the thing is about
yes!
the song is more than just a great chorus. The thing that sells it is the passion of the performance. And especially if you've seen the video as well. Greg Alexander is this, lanky little twink white guy who's just fucking selling it. Like who's just out of his little frail body is coming so much passion and power in that performance. And it just sticks with you for that reason.
To speak to the end credits feeling of it, it feels like a song that was written from the perspective of someone who knew that this was going to be their one shot to like say something that people would hear.
Yeah.
And so it's just all in there. There's like an album's worth of emotion in this song.
Yeah, and that's what makes it endure so much is that it's impossible to resist that deep down. Even if you're a cold-hearted cynic who finds all cheesy lyrics completely eye-rolling, as I once was as a pretentious teenager, even this song couldn't escape my heart, so to speak. So, yeah, amazing. All right, round we go again, Jake, for your penultimate pick today.
Luckily for me, when we make lists like these, sometimes we have to cut corners or, leave off certain picks just based on like our criteria or what have you. But thankfully, these top two are 100% definitively my top two favorite one-hit wonders. And two songs that I just generally love very dearly. The first of which I'm going to talk about is a song that I had absolutely no clue was a one-hit wonder and that I leapt at the opportunity to talk about just because this comes from an album and from a band that I absolutely love and actually have championed in the past. And not only myself, but August is the person who turned me on to them in general, because my pick for my number two one-hit wonder is Concrete Blonde's song Joey, which comes from their album 1990's Bloodletting, which is, honest to God, like one of the most underrated goth rock albums ever made. An amazing album, front to back. I adore this record. It's a great album. Not only does it have Joey on it, but it also has songs like Caroline, songs like Bloodletting, the Vampire song, which are immortal and should be considered absolute classics. this is a fantastic band that just never really caught on, mainly because of the central presence. I think you can sort of attribute a lot of this band's charisma to the lead vocalist and songwriter, which is Jeanette Napolitano, which mouthful of a name, but her vocal presence on these records is just it's so arresting. It's like Stevie Nicks had way more bass in her voice. Just an incredibly like powerful central presence that also conveys a sort of withdrawn intimacy in certain moments as well that I just absolutely love listening to. And Joey here, I had to pick just because I've been aware of this song forever. In fact, this song has been with me for so long, I may have named a main character in a book series after it. Once I listened to this after August recommended it to me, I was like, no fucking way. This is the album with Joey on it. And I find this to be one of the most fascinating one-hit wonders just because this is such a I mean, the only word I could use to describe this song is tragic. It has a real bummer of a story behind it, considering this is a song that is about someone who cares very deeply for someone else who has a debilitating illness in the form of a struggle with alcoholism. Which is just, again, a very fascinating and poignant topic for a one-hit wonder song to be about. That's one of the things that I find the most consistently fascinating about these songs is how often and how specific their subject material is and how they're often about very big, very universal emotions and also like the most specific things you can possibly fathom because within those specific things arises details that are unforgettable that lend themselves to the idea of the one-hit wonder. It just sort of has lots of elements within it that make it so that it's easily to, like that it has components that are easily able to be remembered. For example, the fact that this song has a ridiculously fucking awesome guitar solo inside it that's just bluesy and big and awesome. A hugely memorable, very sincere and heartfelt chorus and hook that is the reason that I remember this song. I just remember like wherever I had heard it, the radio, a supermarket or whatever, I was like, oh yeah, that's this song. And it's just a very, again, it's a unique perspective, but it comes from a real place because this is about the lead singer of another band that Concrete Blonde was friends with. And unfortunately, the lead singer of that band, the titular Joey, did die of liver failure. And so this song is just tinged with a legitimate, actual real life tragedy that just adds to its already pretty poignant emotional complexity in that it's a very anthemic rock song. But it's like when she lets out that bellow on the chorus, like it's sad, like you hear the agony in her voice. It's she's imploring just the idea of like the burden of how having empathy for this person and being separated from them and just because they're not necessarily in their life and specifically with how they handle the alcoholism is like they treat this person with a distance, but they didn't intend to. They completely acknowledged their faults in how they handled this situation and how they really cared for this person and how they kind of mismanaged it. And the fact that it adds with that real life context is just, God, it's a fucking bummer. But what a goddamn stellar song to be left behind by all that.
Yeah, I'd never heard this before today either, and just fantastic song. Love the Be My Baby drums, the atmospheric production, the vocal performance, which is just absolutely show-stopping. Lovely song. We'll absolutely be listening to the album.
My penultimate pick is the When in Rome song, The Promise. To be honest, this is a song that I obviously love dearly, but it is nowhere near my favorite version of the song. There are two covers of it, one of which is by a band that we've never discussed formally on the podcast in any way, but I and my co-hosts have oft mentioned is Anne Berlin have a cover of this song on the Lost Songs B-sides compilation. But it's a very straightforward cover, but through Stephen Christian's vocal presence, I think just sort of knocks the original out of the water.
the cover of this is one of the most timeless songs I've ever heard. Like, fuck the fact that it's a cover. I heard that and was instantly like, wow, I can't believe I've never heard this before. This sounds immortal.
It's it's somewhere in Napoleon Dynamite. That is the first place that I heard it.
The end credits. Yeah.
Yeah. Which befuddling pick, but go off. Um, the other version of it is a cover that is on Sturgill Simpson's Meta Modern Sounds in Country Music, which is
Oh,
a
love this cover.
straightforward country ballad take on the song that could totally be my wedding song if I were to ever get married.
Great
And that's
pick.
that's really the core of this song is that there is such a genuine, earnest love at the core of it that I think it only was acceptable in the 80s when it was a hit. All of the periods after were too, sort of post-ironic or depressed or sort of debauched to have any place for a song that is this has this much of its heart on its sleeve.
This is an interesting case, I think, of how the performer who delivers the song can make all the difference as to how the song resonates. I haven't heard the Anne Boleyn cover. I've heard the Sturgill Simpson cover. I don't remember it because it's been years since I've listened to the album, but I've definitely listened to that album. So I need to go back and remind myself of how I felt about the song in that context. But this being a very kind of new romantic 80s synth ballad delivered in a very kind of heavy-handed way, it's a tricky thing. I don't quite think that the song works for me in this version. Part of it is that the whole thing about I'll make you fall in love with me is a kind of like desperate plea of like, deeply rooted need for someone that could be really powerful, but just sounds it just doesn't sound convincing or all that empathetic, or it's not something I connect with emotionally when it comes from in this context of a like extremely just like performative kind of over the top 80s synth pop guy voice. But I think in the hands of someone who can imbue the performance with a little bit more of what I would describe as genuine vulnerability, then I would be into it. But the song in this version, I think, sounds a little bit too much like a Hallmark kind of just, yeah. I don't want to take away from your emotional response to the song, though, because I could completely see this song and these lyrics with the right performer and the right tone absolutely breaking my heart. But it just feels a little bit too plastic in this version for me to feel as though it's genuine. Um, but yeah, that's just my honest take. What is
The
going
the
on?
the the version you're looking for though is definitely the Anne Boleyn version because it basically turns it into a cut from Jimmy Eat World Clarity's second half.
Oh
Like
God.
that's what it's always reminded me of.
Yeah.
I would deeply I recommend both versions. I think they're both like it very superior to the original in my opinion.
Yeah.
Sturgill in general, his cover game is just fucking incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely need to listen to it because like it was a real thing where I could see the potential. And I'm just like, I need to hear this coming from someone who doesn't sound like they want to date my mum, basically. My penultimate pick. This is a deeply personal pick. This is um one that might raise a few eyebrows with people out there. Because I maybe have a little bit more of a softer spot for this song than maybe a lot of people do. I don't know. Maybe everyone loves it now. I have no idea. But the song is Tattoos, All the Things She Said, an immortal piece of heavy-handed early 2000s sort of electro clash rock, just melodrama. Famously the song sung by the two Russian lesbians. Um,
Yes.
this is one of the
Ha
first
ha!
this is one of the first singles I ever owned.
That's the cover?
This is the single art cover, yeah. Uh, they were sexualized a lot.
That's illegal.
There's definitely a lot of baggage that comes with like that aspect of the branding of this band. But I don't even want to talk about any of that because I want to talk about the song itself. And all of that kind of like sexualization stuff went completely over my head because I was 5 years old when I heard this song.
Yes.
And I fucking loved it. I would tell my dad all the time to play the song. He to the point extent that he bought me the single. I would watch the music video over and over again because my dad would record VHS tapes all the music videos that we liked so we could watch them over and over again because you had to do that in 2002. Um I was obsessed with the song. I think this song has to a not insignificant degree kind of affected my tastes and the way that I engage with like the performance of emotion in art, basically. Uh, and again, all of the stuff about about queer sexuality and the underlying themes of the song, I didn't really get those things. I felt the urgency. I felt an emotional connection with the song that I couldn't explain at that young of an age. I just knew I wanted to listen to it over and over and over and over again. And so for all the baggage that's associated with this, I know a lot of people dismiss this song offhand because of the way that these girls were sexualized, which, the way when I say it like that sounds ridiculous. Like, why would you dismiss the song because of how other people treated it? Makes no sense to me. It is, when you go and listen to it, it is a desperately emotional song about needing and wanting to love someone and having to push against a cold and violent world to do that. Yes, it's melodramatic and over the top, and yes, it does that in a way that's very kind of corny in that sort of early 2000s way. But the emotions are real, and the thing I love as well, the chorus is huge. Again, like with so many of these songs, everyone remembers the chorus, but the verses are like almost whispered. Like they're delivered with such tenderness, but it's not tenderness in terms of like a warmth. It's tenderness in terms of like a fear. And so the song has this sense of like this love is like tenuous because, either one of us could actually be killed for it at any point in time. And so yeah, it's a song that feels so real because of that. And I don't know, I've just always deeply connected with the song, and the way that my relationship with it has changed as I kind of grew up a little bit and started to understand the actual real weight of it, uh, has made it all the more special to me. So this was almost my number one, but I've saved my number one for like a more kind of all-round classic one-hit wonder. But this to me, is one of my favorite songs ever. I haven't like really ever talked about it because like I was so obsessed with it as a kid that I've kind of like forgotten about it for a while. But I coming back to it this week to kind of prep for this video. I was like, oh my God. Oh fuck. I was just completely smitten with it and overwhelmed by it in so many ways. And it's like I was worried it wouldn't have aged well. And I feel like a fucking fool because I went back to it and I'm like, fuck me. This hits like a ton of bricks. So yeah, Tattoo, all the things you said, just 10 out of 10 song, in my opinion.
I love that you picked this song because I don't think a lot of our viewers will be able to appreciate people hated this group and this song. Like this is one of the like in the way that people remember how much people hated somebody like Avril Lavigne at the time she was popular. Take this and double it and then confine it exclusively to the internet. And that's basically what the reputation of this music had for the longest time. And that's how I was familiar with it in the first place. And I remember this being basically my first musical guilty pleasure because I remember internalizing the chorus melody to this song and just being like, wow, this is really catchy. I can't get this out of my head. And I was just like, it's a catchy pop song, whatever. But coming back to this and listening to it, I don't know. I everything about this aesthetically, I should hate it, but it just takes everything just far enough to feel like a perfect portrayal of obsession. So that I'm just kind of like the repetition of the song not only works, it reminds me a lot of music I listen to and really enjoy now. Like the first thing I thought of when I listened to this was the latest single from Porter Robinson, Cheerleader. Like, there's a lot of spiritual kinship between these two things. Go back and give this a listen just in case if you're interested in like, you know, hyperpop and queer music and stuff like that. This is pretty foundational. I would really recommend giving this a go.
Do you have any history with the song at all, Morgan? Have you ever heard
I,
this?
yeah, I'm out. It's, uh,
Yeah.
Really, the biggest takeaway for me with this whole video was just wanting to remind people of the existence of the song. But we have got other songs, and let's get to it now with our final picks, our favorite one-hit wonders, or at least the ones we want to hoist up the most. Jake, what is your pick today?
Well, I knew what my number one was going to be before we even did this list because I was looking for an excuse to talk about this song in some kind of context because I had this revelation semi-recently, probably a couple of months ago, in that I think that not only my favorite one-hit wonder is the best one-hit wonder, I think that this is the best pop song ever. And the thing is that this is not an interesting pick in any way. It's not even an interesting pick for one hit wonder. But the song is "I Melt with You" by Modern English, and I don't know how to sell how perfect I think this is and how much I love it better than this is just one of the most structurally perfect pieces of music that's ever been created. Um, Everything about the way this sounds is very like classic 80s post-punk one-hit wonder, like in the way that you would imagine. It's probably burned itself into our collective subconscious so thoroughly that you don't even register a lot of the instrumental ideas and like the ways in which this actually sounds. But it you can tell that this comes from a band that again we're probably one of those bands that deserved a little bit better than their one-hit wonder status because like Modern English started off as this very avant-garde post-punk act, like a really gothy kind of like early The Cure, 17 Seconds, like Bauhaus kind of like that, but like even stranger and more esoteric. But so you don't expect them to make an out and out masterful, catchy, memorable pop song like "I Melt with You." But it makes sense when you take in mind like how, again, well formed of a song this is, and just how like this is just one of the most achingly romantic songs ever written, and I love the way where it's delivered. Like it's very much that sort of disaffected 80s post-punk vocalist, but it sort of just creates a clarity that makes the declarations made on this song feel super, not just like vulnerable, but just like really heartfelt. Like you never don't take what this person is saying completely seriously. Like I've always loved the lyric "making love to you was never second best." It's such a quintessentially like British sounding statement, and that it's like a reverse compliment, and how it's like, you know, you would normally just say "making love to you is the best," but never second best is just, it just adds that much more definition to the songwriting. And I feel like that's more or less true about every single part of this. This is a song that, like a bunch of other one-hit wonders, another one that we talked about potentially including on this list was 99 Luftballons by Nena, which is also a song that is about nuclear annihilation, which this song also technically kind of is, but is only obliquely about a kind of sort of nuclear fallout event and those sort of ominous, more spacious sections that the song has when it's not doing that immediate pop moment thing. But like, I love the way it oscillates between those two modes and then revisits the idea very briefly and then subverts it at the structure of the end of the song. I mean, like, it's just genius. It's a very simple, very elementally put together thing, but every choice of it is just works to maximize the emotions within. There's just something so plainly beautiful about how lovesick a song like this is. It's a perfectly sappy, sweet, kind of almost sickly sweet sort of sentiment from an 80s pop song, but is tainted with just enough darkness that whatever cynicism it has gives it just enough edge for it to, you know, balance itself and be truly fundamentally just a perfect piece of music. I love everything about this song so much. I've listened to it maybe like 50, 60 times since the start of this year, just because I'm a mildly kind of obsessed with how perfect I think it is.
There's like a particular brand of song that this song fits in with. It's like Cure's Just Like Heaven,
Hmm.
New Order have like three. I don't know whether to pick Temptation, The Perfect Kiss, or Age of Consent, but they all fit.
Yep.
This particular kind of very sort of romantic, sort of guitar driven lovesick song like that. And the timeless melodies, timeless vocal performances,
Mm,
timeless lyrics. This is just like the one that happened to be the biggest hit and the one that happened to be the example of the one hit wonder, but it does like so beautifully fit like the pinnacle of this category because it is just utter musical perfection in every way. And it's like this perfect thing that happened at this particular moment in time that coalesced to have maximum success. And yeah, it's one of those eternal songs. I don't really have anything to add. It's just yeah. I know I think we're gonna all be finishing here with a song that we all pretty universally love, I think, in all cases. So that feels good to end in a place where we can just be like, damn, these are fucking this is peak.
the
Um
cream
Yeah,
crop.
I don't really have anything to add about the song. It's just again elementally perfect. I think I might slightly prefer their song "Ink and Paper," honestly.
And another
Um,
amazing song.
so maybe they were cooking. I do want to point
Hmm.
out a really interesting thing. It's interesting to me anyway. It might not be interesting to anyone else. Is that the first time I heard this song, it was the Bowling for Soup cover that was uh
Oh my
on
God.
it was on the soundtrack album for the 2005 Disney film Sky High, which
Oh
uh
yeah.
I
which I
remember
just
that.
want to really quickly just run it down. This soundtrack is almost exclusively composed of new wave covers, English new wave band
Yeah,
covers.
yeah, it is.
Uh, there's a cover of Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Save It for Later by The Beat, True by Spandau Ballet, Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want, Through Being Cool by Devo, um,
Some deep cuts. Okay.
uh, And She Was by Talking Heads, Just What I Needed by The Cars, Voices Carry, which is that by just Amy Mann, or was she in a band?
Um,
Yeah, that was her band
I
Till Tuesday. That was their song.
there you go. That's it.
Yeah, and a number of others by bands I had never even heard of, which is so bizarre to me because one, they're all covers, and two, they're all like specifically English new wave bands for this movie that
Yeah.
aesthetically has absolutely nothing in common with that motif or like idea. It's just clearly a fixation that the director or one of the producers had that they
Yeah.
were just like, and Disney was, I guess, not in the state to be able to afford the original versions of all of these songs, or they
They're
just wanted
like,
to modernize them.
Yeah.
we got a character who melts. Put in the melt with you song.
Yeah,
No,
I
yeah,
think
that was the crux of the Bowling for Soup music video
yeah.
that had many characters from
That
the
I do
film.
remember.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that they would want to modernize these songs for that movie. But yeah, there's some kind of fixation that happened there with a particular period of music. I love that. Morgan, what is your final pick today for your favorite one-hit wonders?
My final pick is by far the most recent of my picks. Is it the most recent of all of ours?
I think so.
But
Yeah,
it's
it is. Yeah.
somebody that I used to know by got ya and
Go gig
Kimbra.
gig
By
gig gig gig
Gatya and Kimber.
gig 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 gig
G-
go
g-
go
g-
go
g-
go.
ga- 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 ga. Uh, it sounds like names for Navi and Avatar, but they are real people
Yep.
from
Yep.
the homeland of one of my co-hosts. Um,
daughter
I
too.
always
Yeah.
love that Gautier's real name is like weirder than Gautier. It's Wally de Becker.
Wally back.
He's called Wally.
Wallet tobacco.
I love a man called Wally.
I
And
don't. I'm not equipped to talk about.
though,
This is one of the greatest songs of all time. Not
so
one of the greatest one-hit wonders.
I kind of
Not
wish
one of the
that
greatest songs of the decade. It's one of the greatest songs of all time
I
ever
kind of
written.
I kind of
Correct.
wish that we'd been able to finish on this because this is my favorite song of that any of us have listed on any of our lists. It would have been on mine if Morgan hadn't already taken it. I probably agree that this is my favorite one-hit wonder of all time, as well as one of the greatest songs of certainly of the 21st century so far. Um,
Yep.
this song is just it transcends the memes, and it got memed an awful lot. This is maybe the only context we in this video where we get to even talk about a song that could be memed like that.
Yeah.
But it transcends the memes, it transcends the chorus. It's an immaculately constructed song that also, again, for a song that was as huge and successful as it was, it's not produced like a pop song. It has a very indie production,
No.
and a kind of unusual musical arrangement as well, with like kind of xylophones and like an old 50s like or a 60s sample that it's based around as well. Um, and the whole construction of it is really strange as well. It has that thing like fuck, what's the other song like? Okay, not that much like all the things she said, but it's like that's the only other example that we've talked about that I can compare it to, where it's like a really low-key performance on the verses and then an absolutely explosive chorus. But of course, the way the song is constructed to be like a breakup song that starts out like a very traditional breakup song, the wounded guy kind of extolling his heartbreak, and then becomes much more three-dimensional with the arrival of Kimbra to kind of offer the counter perspective and completely change the way that you view the whole song. And it's the beautiful thing about it. One of the things I think that makes it one of the greatest breakup songs of all time is that it is a breakup song from both perspectives of the breakup that doesn't really take sides either. Like as a song, it presents genuine heartache and also a sense of indignation on the part of both of them at the other person that feels very real, and in the moment you hear it feels very relatable and sort of sympathetic, but you also completely understand the other person's perspective as well. And it's a kind of song where you can pick sides as well, and decide like who you find to be more sympathetic. But the beautiful thing about the song is that it in itself and in the way that it's written, it doesn't present one side of this breakup as being more right than the other side, and it is a beautiful Rorschach test for where your sympathies lie and who you relate to more. And that's something that's so rare, certainly in pop music, to have a level of kind of emotional complication like that, and not just be like, because what pop music is essentially is let's boil down these complicated emotions we have to the most simple, filtered, immediate version of that. And for somebody that I used to know to work on that level for people who are casually listening, but also for people who are, looking a little bit more closely, to be something that actually opens up into, a complicated picture of two people with very different views on a relationship. It's just fucking class, man. It's fucking class. And like I said, the fact that it endures and it has this raw, immediate emotional power, even if you're not like paying all that much attention to the verses and where the substance of the song is actually happening, you can just hear that chorus and feel like the kind of emotional weight that pop music always tries to give and seldom reaches.
I think you could best make the argument for this song being a great song in that it was instantly greeted as a breath of fresh air when it came out amidst the landscape that it sort of resided within. And even after that decade moved closer to where that song sounded than I think a lot of people probably expected. I mean, this is like, think about things like Lord that got popular, sort of
Mm.
that moody alt pop that kind of got ushered in that second half. Not necessarily saying the song is influential, even though I would totally make that argument and that it is, because it just remained in our consciousness for so long. I think it's inevitable that it just kind of had to be influential in some respect. But because we endured that kind of the wave, the after effect of, Royals and all of that, and nobody ever got sick of this song. Like nobody ever, like, even after it debatably beat all of these trends to the table, nothing about it sounds any less like fresh. Like it's so, like, not only is it instrumentally weird, it's instrumentally like really dynamic. When I think about this song, I think about a ton of those little moments, like the moment where Kimbra does the screw me over, and then you have the tiny little woodland wind like trills in the background. Yeah, like little tiny details like that that just accent the specific parts of the song in like the most memorable way possible. And it's like it's accented by two ace choice vocal performances that just like, and not to mention the album this comes off of. Great album. Like go check this out for like, I mean, we it's like a meme almost that I see on like music Twitter. People be like, Gautier vanished, like all of that stuff. Just like, no, you just didn't listen to his music. He made good shit.
He did
It is
vanish though.
there.
He has not released anything
That's
since that album.
that's true. But
Yeah,
still, there is more. Just saying.
yeah, yeah. He was
Though I
quite.
think that may be because you could feasibly live the rest of your life and probably give money to the generation that follows you in your family based purely off of the ad revenue of that music video because it's currently sitting
Probably.
at 2.2 billion
Jesus.
views.
He's kind of like he
Whoa.
kind of went like Akiva Schaffer's character in Popstar, where it's just like disappear off the face of the planet and become a
Yeah.
farmer.
Yeah,
Like
so I'm
that's
not.
literally what he did
Yep.
almost. Well, the thing about Gautier as well is that he was actually quite popular and big in Australia, his home country, well before this song. Like the album that precedes the record this is on, like Drawing Blood, it was a very successful, like it's basically an Aussie classic, like well-regarded album.
Mhm.
And so Gautier had like quite a lot of history, sort of in the Southern Hemisphere. It was sort of a big moment that this song just kind of blew up out of nowhere. And I think I'm glad you invoked Lord as well, because to me, this song and Royals are like, they're both examples of these huge moments in pop
Oh
music in
yeah.
the 2010s, where it's like these songs came out of nowhere. They didn't really abide by any of the established pop tropes at all up to that point,
Mm.
and they totally dominated. And what they really showed was that there was a template for where pop music could head that was different from the kind of massive EDM influenced 500 producers in the blender, Katy Perry, fucking Pink, fucking, all those huge artists of the early 2010s. There was an alternative. And that came to define
Mm.
so much of the last 10 years of pop music is an alternative that has now become, the new normal, the new
The
popular,
mainstream.
basically. So, in some ways, I think Royals was more influential in that respect, but the Gautier song beat it to the punch and is in some ways, I don't know. Royals is so remarkable and so striking and so like in your face, but this is just, it's hard to even compare them. They're similar in terms of their effect, but they're so different as songs. This song is immortal. It will be immortal, and it's just hard to overhype it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just want to point out that the 2013 record of the year contest, which 2012 music subsequently was see here. Stronger parentheses What Doesn't Kill You by Kelly Clarkson, Lonely Boy by the Black Keys, two time capsules in and of themselves.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
two
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
for
two
sure.
eh, you
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
one
We Are
one
Never
what?
Ever Getting Back Together by Taylor Swift. We Are Young, Fun, and Janelle Monáe.
Wow.
Thinking About You by Frank Ocean, and then
Oh.
somebody that I used to know and somebody that I used to know took Record of the Year, pop duo performance, and Making Mirrors took alternative album that year.
It's so
And then the man
wild.
just Gone. He's gone.
It's so wild that that song got Record of the Year as well, because like that's a specific award for, production and sound,
Hmm.
and it is so unconventional and aloof. Uh, Also have to, like, when we talk about the song, we have to kind of, and this is true of a number of songs we talked about, but especially one like this, I would say, have to acknowledge the impact of the music video as well. So
Yeah.
memorable,
Yep.
so distinctive, so much a part of its cultural impact too. I don't think it would have had the same impact without that music video, which really says something about, I feel like I feel like it was one of the last examples of a truly impactful and culturally powerful music video. I feel like we're kind of losing as a culture the sense with which the music video used to have so much weight and value.
That feels like the last one.
Yeah, which
Like
is which is
That
uh,
lineup in general feels like the last definitive like phase of popular music that you could isolate and be like, ah, yes, these trends that aligned and were like identifiable. Because like past this point, I just feel like everything totally runs together.
mm. Anyway, gonna finish on a high with something that is just elementally perfect in its own way, that's completely different from the modern English song and the Gautier song. I'm going to end with Chumbawamba's Tub Thumping, a song that has maybe two or three elements to it, and all of them work in perfect synchrony and perfect harmony to make one of the most uplifting songs of all time. This song, I feel like, in as much as any song can be impossible to hate, I think this has to be up there. There is just something so life affirming, but also completely unpretentious about this song. It is, it is punk to the core in terms of its ethos, certainly the ethos of the band who made it, but more to the point, just in terms of the song itself, it is a pure celebration and imperative to persevere and to survive, while also just being a really fun song about getting absolutely blasted at the pub with your friends. It is a song that finds in that particular communal experience the highest of profundities, and it elevates that particular experience to the level of profound without ever again being pretentious or making points about it. It is just a song about how fucking critical it is to get utterly blasted with your friends on a Friday night. Or, it doesn't have to be, about alcohol or anything like that, just about that sense of total communal connection and spirit. It's just a fucking immaculate piece of music.
this is such a weird song, dude. Like, and I
Really
mean that
is.
fully in the best way. Like, structurally, what is going on here? It's like
Hmm.
a little, like a sort of like weird electronic intro, and then some vocal things, and then the chorus, and then kissing a night away,
Night
and the
away.
chorus, and it's like
And
every
then
emotion
and then they all
feel
come together at the final part of the song, and they're all happening
yeah.
at once, and they work together, right? The song might sound disparate initially, but it's like it's so well aligned. And by the time that it comes together, it's just magical.
It's like all of life is in this song. Every emotion you can feel, it's all in the roadmap of Chumbawamba's tub thumping, man.
It's like
Life
the chorus
happens
has
at
like
tub
this
thumping.
the chorus, the chorus
What did
has
I
like
say that about originally?
Steak and shake.
Oh yeah. We've been
that
doing this show for too long,
that
man.
that has become so ingrained in my head that I now think that that is just the Steak and Shake slogan.
Mm.
I want to point out that one of the reasons that this is so musically exciting is because I've made a point to try and emphasize bands that deserve more than their one-hit wonder status. And maybe more than any band any of us have talked about, Chumbawamba deserve better than to have their overall status be that of a one-hit wonder. Because if you're in the know, you'll know that Chumbawamba, they are more punk than your favorite punk band. Like these guys are as legit as they fucking come. And one of the reasons they're so weird is because they came up in this, like, again, this very grassroots scene of British punk music that then eventually combined with things like Manchester and the dance music scene and, inspired by shit like the Chemical Brothers. And that's how you get a song like this. Like, Chumbawamba are one of the most difficult to pigeonhole bands that have ever existed. And the fact that this, which is perfectly emblematic of every facet of them, is their one hit. This song is a miracle, dude.
I just want to point out that this is the album cover. It is the most terrifying thing I have ever seen in my entire life. And the part that you can't see is right here on the Apple Music version of it. It
Uh-huh.
says contains Top of the World, parentheses, ole, 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 which is another song on the album. You're like,
Yeah.
that's the one that you're like contains?
That's like a big like football anthem though. Like that song is big in
Uh-huh.
the UK. And that's also a song that people are more likely in the UK to know by name than Tub Thumping, which is just I get knocked
Uh-huh.
down, but I get beat up again. But yeah, like never have the words pissing the night away sounded more euphoric. It is she sings that like how it actually feels to have like sunk like
Uh-huh.
15 drinks and be finally taking that piss.
Yeah.
Alice Nutter has a beautiful singing voice.
Yeah,
Simple facts.
she really
Alice
called
Nutter.
Alice Nutter. I
Yeah.
was gonna say it sounds like a hot fuzz character.
Everyone in Chumbawamba has exactly the kind of name you would expect someone in Chumbawamba to have. That's what's great about it.
Dunstan
I
Bruce.
highly recommend checking out not just the
No,
album this is from, both because it's a great time capsule and because this is maybe the most stark example of a song that has aged better in hindsight. Because when this album came out, this was the album that Chumbawamba got called a sellout for. Like, this was their pop album that crossed them over, that I think they signed to EMI for. And they made an EP early in their career called Fuck EMI because they did business with arms dealers and shit. And, real punk's not going to sign with EMI. So, like, it's again, this song is such an anomaly for every single reason. It's fascinating that this song is successful at all.
It is so funny that they're just like hardcore, like Disco Elysium-esque anarchists, and this is
Yep.
like their
Yep.
their cultural legacy is this drinking song, which is ultimately not really a drinking song, but a song about solidarity, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a
Tub
work
thumping
song,
is
it's
a
a
political
protest song.
protest term.
It's all of these things. It is again, it encapsulates this kind of thing. I feel like we've come back to a couple of times where it's something that is like stealthily quite profound and full of depth that is disguised within the shell of, an almost embarrassingly simple sentiment. And that's kind of
This
like the
and Closing
highest,
Time are basically the same song.
yeah, and that's kind of like the highest aim, I think, of pop music as well, basically. So yeah, that brings us to the end of our list. We had quite a chunky list there of a lot of our favorite one-hit wonders. There was a lot that it was really hard not to talk about, as we've alluded to. So let us know at home in the comments what your favorite one-hit wonder songs are and what you think of our picks today. Until next time, though, folks, rock over London, rock on Chicago. Life happens at Steak and Shake.